So welcome to the UNLV Graduate Program in Higher Education information session. My name is Frederick No. I'm an associate professor, and I'm also joined here by my colleague, Dr. Kenyon Lee Whitman, who will also be sharing some of the information with you. So I put here, because it's actually quite hard to find on the UNLV website, who the higher ed faculty are. So these are the primary folks you'd be engaging with if you decide to join us in the program. So there's myself, and we put in red here all of the sort of main research and expertise areas. So I do policy, finance, and economics of higher education, usually mostly quantitative methods, and I do most of my research is actually on community colleges and policies affecting community colleges. Dr. Stephanie Rellis is an associate professor whose primary research areas on college access and education policy, and she primarily uses qualitative methods. Dr. Blanca Rincon is an associate professor who studies access and equity in higher education, and also has several ongoing research projects related to equity in STEM and on minority serving institutions. Dr. Doris Watson is a professor, and Dr. Watson studies issues of diversity in higher education with a focus on administration, leadership, and also graduate students. She teaches a really wonderful course on the history of higher education as well, and has ongoing work looking at various oral histories, for example, of teacher educators and teacher preparation programs. And then you'll hear from Dr. Whitman later, but Dr. Whitman focuses on underrepresented students, particularly foster youth. He uses critical race theory, CRT, in his work. He's committed to racial justice and community engagement in all of his research and advocacy. So who are we? We are a program that is housed within a bigger department called EPLHE, and that stands for Educational Psychology, Leadership, and Higher Education. So the other programs in our department are the education psychology folks. There's an educational leadership program that has an EDD and a master's program really geared towards K-12 practitioners and leaders. And then we also have a sports program, and we're trying to figure out how to get sports into the department name. But our program has really three main offerings for graduate education. The first is a Master's of Education, an MED in higher education, that's 36 credits, a PhD in higher education, that's 66 credits, and three separate graduate certificate programs, and those are 15 credits. And Dr. Whitman will talk more about the specifics of each one. The graduate certificates are in three areas. One is sort of generally in higher education. One has a particular focus on college sports, and one is really designed towards developing people to work in DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion efforts in different higher education and actually organizational spaces. So I wanted to include this slide because I think it's important to understand that higher education is really a whole field of study. There's a scholarly association, there's several faculty members like myself and Dr. Whitman who are professors of higher education, and there's journals dedicated to empirical research in the area of higher education. Why is it important to study higher ed? Well, it's really one of the key social institutions we have in society, right? Like there's so much of our society is intertwined with what happens in these spaces, in colleges and universities. This institution obviously has implications for social mobility, whether people move out of poverty and sort of the kinds of livelihoods that they'll have. Obviously, the research arm of the universities are related to technological progress and scientific advancement. And they're a place where we are asking big questions about equity and diversity, and sort of like a test lab almost for what those conversations are in broader society. You can see higher ed in the news every day along a number of topics, from unfortunate things like mass shootings to discourses about equity, diversity, inclusion. We've seen, obviously, throughout the country, these attacks on tenure and this idea of academic freedom. There has been, in the news cycle, obviously, things about campus violence, campus sexual assault, racism, monuments, mascots, hate speech, all of that. It's in the news. And I think we believe that we need research in this field to help our society make sense of what's going on. And we need to develop leaders, thoughtful leaders, mission-oriented, value-oriented leaders who can lead out in these conversations that are happening nationally and globally. That's on the external side. And obviously on the more local side, many of us and many of you here work in higher education, and you probably want to better the organization you're working in, or the space or the office you're working in. And so we think that the slate of offerings that we've put together will help you to have a deeper, more robust understanding of like how higher ed works, what are the historical legacies, what are the legal issues, what are the organizational challenges. All of that will, we think, is helping to develop better leaders for the higher education of today and tomorrow. So I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Whitman to talk about the different graduate programs we have, which topically all try to address these 4 areas. So developing university and community college leadership, leadership for student affairs, higher education policy, analysts and experts, and also we do have intercollegiate athletics with our partnership with the sports management program. You'll see throughout all of the offerings that there's an emphasis on capstone projects and internships that ask students to do a culminating experience and do a meaningful project that will help launch them into the next phase of their career. Right, so Dr. Whitman.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. No. Yeah, thank you all for coming this evening. And so first up, we're going to talk about the Masters of Education in Higher Education. And typically students who enroll in this program are entry-level leaders at a university, at a college, a community college. And so the program, I think, is what's interesting is it integrates practical and relevant administration skills with a broad understanding of issues facing higher education. And also the MED program allows students to choose from a sequence of courses emphasizing student affairs, intercollegiate athletics, or higher education organization. And I think particularly one of our foci in the program is equity and inclusion. And I kind of feel like across all of our classes, not just the diversity class, we integrate those themes across all of our coursework. The higher ed program, the Master's in Higher Ed program is a non-thesis program, which requires the successful completion of a capstone project, as Dr. No previously mentioned, taken during the final semester. And so I know how long does it take to complete the program and how many credits is of course something that we're all interested in. So you must complete a minimum of 36 credit hours with a minimum of a 3.0 GPA. All courses in the program must be at the 600 level or above, with 50% at the 700 level. So correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Nova, that averages out to be about a year and a half worth of coursework.
Yeah, it can be done in about a year and a half if you take 3 courses per semester, but I think many of our students are also working full time and they take about 2 years if they're doing 1 or 2 classes per semester. And we also have summer course offerings.
Awesome. And then so some of the required courses, you have the required courses totals to 12 credits. We have EDH 607, which is leadership development seminar. EDH 609, course that I teach, which is leading diverse organizations. I also call it diversity in higher education. EDH 727, college students in the US. And then EDH 703, history of American higher education, which is a course I particularly enjoyed when I was in graduate school. And so there are 3 credits for the core research courses. And then you would then pick an additional research course. You'll see those below. There's a qualitative research methods course, a descriptive and inferential stats course, and an institutional assessment course. And then back over towards the left of your screen, you will complete one course that totals 3 credits of a master's internship. And then you would end with your master's capstone experience.
Oh, hold on. I clicked on the link.
And that's the website in case you want to reference it as well. And then so next up, I think we'll talk about go back to slideshow.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. And then continued, we'll have the electives, which total 12 credits. You complete 12 credits of advisor-approved elective coursework. Courses may be selective from, but are not limited to the following 3 areas. Student affairs emphasis, EDH 626, Foundations of Student Affairs, EDH 714, Understanding Minority Serving Institutions, also known as Understanding MSIs, EPY, that's in our educational psychology program, EPY 711, Human Growth and Development. And then if you wanted a intercollegiate athletics emphasis, EDH 603, Introduction to College Sport, which is really fun. EDH 606, and intercollegiate athletic administration. And then last year is EDH 711, marketing, higher education, and college sport. And then the last emphasis is administrative leadership. EDH 708, the American Community College. EDH 742, academic governance in higher education. And our last one under this emphasis is EDH 750, which is a special topics course in higher education.
And I wanted to add one question we often get is, do you have to take, if you want an emphasis area, do you have to take these courses? The answer to that is no. These are just suggested like themes. They're electives. So you can actually take different courses that are on different lists, and that's fine. These are just suggestions. And I should also note that the sports courses now have a new prefix called IPSM.
And so our doctorate of philosophy in higher education, the program is versatile and it allows students to concentrate in one of several areas, depending on a student's educational, academic, and career goals. This program is particularly for someone who might be kind of mid-level to senior in their career, and then kind of are hoping to possibly move up the ranks in admin, or perhaps become a faculty member and join the other side of higher education, which we know as academia. And then so what is also interesting about our program is we have departmental partnerships with educational psychology, which means that doctoral students get a combination of content and methodological coursework and research opportunities that span individual leadership to organizational levels, embodied within the following 3 emphasis areas: university and community college leadership, student affairs leadership, and higher education policy and planning. And so I'm not going to go over all of the courses because the doctoral course requirements, as we would assume, are more extensive than the master's, but it totals 66 credits. So it takes on average students about 4.5 years to complete. The required courses total 15 credits, EDH 703, History of Higher Education, EDH 709, Seminar in Econ of Higher Ed, and then students would pick or a range of the other classes below. And then to the right of your screen, you have the required research courses, which total 12 credits. So you have EDH 707, Designing and Critiquing Research and Education, EPY 716, Evaluation of Research Methods, EPY 722, Inferential Stats and Experimental Design, and then EPY 718, Qualitative Research Methodologies. And then you have your research elective courses that total 4 credits, advanced qual research, qualitative case study, multiple regression, and then multivariate stats as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to add that these research courses here are designed to help prepare you to engage in your own original research project, your dissertation. And so you're getting the methods support and you're getting the content knowledge support to design and conduct your study.
And then you have your specialization courses, which total 15 credits. So students can elect to specialize in any of the 3 emphasis areas, one being higher ed leadership, including university and community college leadership, second being higher education policy and planning, and third being student affairs leadership. And then you have a myriad of courses to choose from. And then you will then do an internship course, which totals 3 credits, and then a prospective course, which is your dissertation proposal preparation. And then you do your dissertation course, which is 12 credits. And I'm going to go through our graduate certificates. We have one in higher education, a graduate certificate in college sport, and a graduate certificate in chief diversity officer in higher education. So the graduate certificate in higher ed targets full or part-time students or professionals who may not have studied higher education through any formal degree, but wish to develop a deeper understanding of higher education. Hours earned for the certificate may be applied to a degree program in higher ed at the master's or doctoral level. Also, hours earned in that master's or doctoral program in higher education may not be used towards the certificate. And the certificate requires 15 credit hours. And then we have our graduate certificate in college sport, which we partner with IPSM. It is for full or part-time graduate students who may not have studied intercollegiate athletics or college sport leadership specific to higher education through any formal degree program, but wish to develop a deeper understanding of college sport leadership and career opportunities available in the field of intercollegiate athletics. And so in this certificate, you'll take 3 classes in higher education and then 2 classes in IPSM. And then our last graduate certificate is a Chief Diversity Officer in Higher Education. It's a collaborative program between the Department of Ed Psych Leadership in Higher Ed and the Department of Teaching and Learning. The certificate targets full and part-time grad students who seek professional preparation commensurate with the standards of professional practice for Chief Diversity Officers. Master's and doc students enrolled in disciplines outside of higher ed and multicultural education, as well as current administrative professionals who already possess an undergraduate degree and have 2 to 3 years full-time work experience will particularly benefit from the certificate.
And one thing I wanted to add about this certificate and also the master's program is we have designed the programs to be in accordance with the sort of best practices and recommendations for higher education programs from ACPA and NASPA, which are like the two large higher ed professional associations. So we have about 30, I didn't count. It's about 30 to 35 doc students in the program. It can be done as quickly as 4 years, but many of our students are also working full time, so they're taking fewer classes, and so maybe it takes more like 5 years, 5 to 6 years, even depending. And it really depends on how much time. We understand people have lives and full-time work lives and families, etc. And so it's really up to you, sort of how quickly you want to progress through the program. We have about 35 master students in the program, and like Dr. Whitman said, it takes about 2 years to complete, depending on whether you take 1, 2, or 3 classes per semester. And certificates, it's 5 courses, so that could be done in a year if you wanted to. I should say that the majority of our students are students of color and first-gen students. Many of them work full-time or part-time in higher education in the NSHE system. Many of them work on campus at UNLV. For those of you who are interested in being a full-time graduate student, I think Nevada and NSHE has a really an improving funding package for graduate assistants. The stipends all just went up this year, which is great for the graduate students. But essentially, you would be, quote, working for 20 hours, either teaching or doing research, and then you would be taking your classes for the rest of the time, and then you would get tuition benefits, and you'd get a stipend for your living expenses. I wanted to share a little bit about where our higher ed alumni are. So during the program, they all complete internships. They all are heavily encouraged to present national conferences, and many of our doc students have published already before completing their PhD. They work in a variety of education, government, and industry roles. There are some that go in the faculty route, and then many go into more administration and higher ed leadership. And so just a couple examples of very recent graduates. So for example, 2 students have faculty positions at various places. One doc student graduate is now like a director at a research and evaluation center. For our master's students, many of them go into like advising roles, and not just at UNLV, but all across the country. For example, USC in California, Weber State. And so, yeah, we're just really proud of our graduates. They're really wonderful. We get really, really wonderful students who, oftentimes are working in the Las Vegas Valley and just really care a lot about the students in this community. And so, we're just excited to get a few years to interact with them and meet them on their professional and academic journeys. So application deadlines. So the October 15th and December 1st ones have already passed, but for the PhD program, then is the next one, and that's for priority PhD admissions. And by priority, I mean, it's if you're interested in obtaining a graduate assistantship. So that would be if you want to come to Las Vegas for our program, fully funded and have a stipend, you should apply by January 15th. Though we will accept PhD applications through March 15th, same with master's degrees, and then certificates. You can submit those at any time, but we generally review them a few months before the semester starts. So that'd be like December 1st and 1st. Okay. Important to note that the GRE is now optional. You don't have to submit any scores. You can if you want to, but it's not required. Okay, so I'm gonna pause the recording there, and then I will entertain any questions you have. And also, if you need to leave, that's perfectly fine as well. I'll be posting this portion of the video on the UNLV College of Ed YouTube page.